All right, let's talk about something we all get wrong, that Eureka moment. We're going to dig into this huge myth about innovation and show you how some of the biggest businesses were built on ideas that were, well, borrowed.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The cartoon light bulb literally popping up over someone's head. We have this romantic idea that these incredible breakthroughs just appear out of thin air, perfectly formed.
Now, seriously, what if believing in that myth is the very thing stopping you from building something incredible yourself? That's what we're going to unpack, right here, right now.
So first things first, we've got to completely rethink where great ideas even come from. Because spoiler alert, it is almost never a one-person show.
Look, we all love the story of the lone genius, right? The maverick who creates something brand new out of nothing. But the reality, it's way more like a team effort. It's an entire ecosystem of smart people building on ideas that already exist and just combining them in a new way.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. Isaac Newton said it perfectly hundreds of years ago. Even his whole theory of gravity, which we picture as him getting hit by an apple and having a sudden revelation, was actually built on years and years of work from other scientists before him.
And this pattern is it's everywhere you look. We think of Thomas Edison as this solo inventor, but he called himself a sponge and had a huge team he called his muckers. We see a picture of one guy on the moon, but it took 500,000 people to get him there. Even the internet wasn't one person's idea. It was built piece by piece over 40 years. Greatness is a team sport, period. Okay, so if ideas aren't just zapped into our brains from nowhere, where did they come from? Well, this part might actually surprise you. The big secret is often just copying, but with a clever twist. For example, the iPod. I mean, what a game changer. It felt like it came from another planet. But did it really?
So that amazing, iconic click wheel, that wasn't an Apple invention. The basic tech came from a Hewlett-Packard device way back in 1983. Apple's genius wasn't inventing it, it was taking that existing idea and putting it into a totally new context. A music player you could hold in your hand. That was the twist.
Okay, here's another one for you. Dyson vacuums. They just feel so different, so futuristic, right? But the core technology is actually based on industrial dust separators used in sawmills and factories for about 150 years. James Dyson's big idea wasn't inventing the technology, it was shrinking it down to fit in your closet. And once you start looking for this pattern, you honestly see it everywhere. Microsoft didn't build its first operating system from scratch, they bought it. Coca-Cola, that was originally a headache medicine. GoPro started as just a disposable camera on a wrist strap. The genius wasn't in the from-scratch invention, it was in the brilliant adaptation. So this all sounds great for these giant companies, right? But how can you actually do this? Let's get into the actual playbook for turning so-called unoriginal ideas into something truly valuable. It really breaks down into these 5 main strategies. We're going to walk through how to build systems instead of just chasing goals, how to find your place in the market, use what you've got, and why being an outsider is actually a superpower. Okay, first up, stop chasing these big one-off goals and start building systems. Think about it. How can you automate things, or even better, outsource them? A perfect example is this guy, Nathan Lotka. He built software that let his customers do the hard work of building fan pages. He created a system that ran itself. Next up, and this one's a classic for a reason. Remember that during the gold rush, the people who got rich for sure weren't the miners, but the guys selling them pickaxes and shovels. Instead of trying to be the next big thing in a hot industry, think about what tool or service everyone in that industry needs. Number 3 is all about using what you've already got. Think of your main idea as the center of a wheel. Then build out spokes, different ways to make money from it. Marie Kondo's tidying method was the wheel. The books, the TV show, the courses, those were all spokes. Amazon did the same thing when they turned their own internal computer system into AWS, their most profitable business. Fourth, and this might feel a little weird, but learn to love being an outsider. You do not need to be the world's leading expert. In fact, not knowing the rules means you're the one most likely to break them and find a better way. This ties right into the last point, by the way. Build your network. When you talk to people who aren't like you start to see problems and solutions that everyone else is blind to. Okay, so we've got the playbook, the strategies, but honestly, none of that works without the right mindset. This is where the real change happens. This quote, this really gets to the core of it. We're all so terrified of failing, but when you're trying to create something new, failure isn't just a possibility, it's a prerequisite. So what does that look like in practice? Well, it's really about building a few key habits. Get comfortable with failing, but do it small and early.
The Post-it note literally came from a failed glue formula. Let yourself get bored sometimes. Let your mind wander. That's when the best connections happen. Oh, and stop waiting for perfection. Just start. And for goodness sake, write everything down. Ideas disappear fast.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've busted the myth, we've gone through the playbook, and we've talked about the mindset. So, what now?
When you boil it all down, the world is pretty much split into two kinds of people. You have consumers who watch and use and follow, and then you have a much, much smaller group, the creators. They're the ones building, making, and recombining.
So, look, you don't need a magical light bulb moment. You don't need to be a lone genius. You just need to look around, see what's working, and figure out your own twist. You have the playbook. The only question left is, what are you going to create?